Hi, I'm doing my Sunday morning unwitnessing again. Here's the car. Hope you can see it. Somebody's walking along, so I'll get out of their way. And hope you can see that. Okay. Right, so I will make a video. A bit breezy again, but at least it's not pouring with rain. Sticky lipstick. Anyway, I'll just set my camera up, hopefully in a good position. Oh dear, that's not very flattering, is it? Anyway. That'll just have to do. I think I'll open the window too, because it's a bit warm. Oh, the witnesses are starting to drive past now. Okay, right, yes, it's just me again. And as you can see, the message I had on my car today was if the truth has set you free, then why are you still in bondage to men? And of course the scriptural references that, well, I haven't mentioned them on the sign, but hopefully witnesses will be familiar with them, is I think it's John 8:32, I'll have to check that, where Jesus said, if you remain in my word you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Of course they think of the truth as being their body of teachings, their interpretations of the scriptures, where I believe Jesus was talking about himself. You know, Jesus is the truth after all, isn't he? And through his sacrifice, he sets those who believe in him, who have faith in him, sets them free from bondage ultimately to sin and death. So anyway, witnesses like to think they have freedom of conscience. They've been freed from all the false teachings of false religion, so they think. But why are they still in bondage to men? Why do they have to follow what these men say, these men of the governing body, who have elevated themselves above the rest of the congregation, and expect everyone else to follow what they say, with the threat of being disfellowshipped and shunned if they don't agree with them? Terrible. It's funny, before I was a witness, you know, I was a Catholic. I was born and raised as a Catholic. I had my first Holy Communion and my confirmation when I was about 16. But I never felt truly happy with the Catholic Church, because for one thing I would look at the Pope and see this man who everyone adored and idolised as if he was Jesus Christ himself. And of course he is viewed as like the vicar of Christ, or a stand-in for Christ. And whatever the Pope said went. You know, they had the doctrine of the infallibility of the Pope. You know, it was impossible for the Pope, at least while he was sitting on St. Peter's chair, I don't know, is that a throne or something, then what he said couldn't be wrong. You know, it was from God. And of course the Vatican, which of course Vatican City is actually the smallest country in the world. It's crazy, isn't it? Oh, somebody just tooted as they went past. I wonder if that was a toot of approval. I don't know. Anyway, and yes, one thing that frustrated me as a teenage Catholic was the huge wealth that the Vatican was sitting on. I remember seeing a documentary about the Vatican, and it showed how they have all these priceless treasures there, and in some special, I think, below ground level, I don't know what you'd call them. I don't know if anyone has access to them, you know, like the public. But they have all these old paintings and statues and stuff that are worth heaps, and they pay people to restore these things. I don't know what for. And it used to drive me crazy that while they hoarded these things, these just valueless objects really, and had such wealth, then yet there were millions, if not billions, of very poor Catholics around the world who could really do with some help. You know, they're living in poverty, and the money was not being used to aid them. You know, there wasn't this equalising like we see in the scriptures, where people donated their excess funds, put it into the box for the poor, and the funds were distributed amongst those who were in need. But I didn't see that happening in the Catholic Church. But unfortunately, in my early days associating with the Witnesses and studying, it never crossed my mind that the organisation that I was looking to join was very similar. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a governing body rather than one singular pope. They have a governing body which they view as a singular slave, and the slave is the channel that God uses to communicate to mankind, so they say. And this is a very authoritative channel. And in fact, there was a court case at one time where a watchtower lawyer, I believe he was a lawyer, actually remarked in court that the Jehovah's Witnesses organisation was a hierarchical got it out eventually, organisation like the Catholic Church, that they were organised from and authorised from the top down. It wasn't a bottom up. You know, the people at the top make the rules and they pass it down the line, and any changes that are to be made to teachings or policies come from the top, not from the bottom putting pressure on the top, but from the top down. And of course Jehovah's Witnesses think Jehovah God is the very top. Witnesses are coming past. So yes, I used to go door to door in my naivety, and I would talk to householders, and they might say to me something like, "Oh, I don't believe in organised religion," and I would say, "Oh no, neither do I," and point out all the terrible things that organised religion is responsible for or contributed to, like the world wars, you know, the Catholics and Protestants at each other's throats in Ireland, and just the division. And yeah, but I never actually stopped and thought that, hang on, you know, maybe I just didn't know enough at that point. I mean, it may be true that Jehovah's Witnesses do not go to war, although if you care to look at the 1974 yearbook, I think it is, or 1975, one of them, it says that a considerable number of brothers did fight on the front in the First World War. But anyway, they came to see that Christians shouldn't be taking up arms, so they stopped doing that, you know. And of course you wouldn't see any witnesses participating in the Second World War. In fact, they were persecuted and went to jail in the concentration camps and things because of their neutrality, and also because of Rutherford's getting in the face of the Nazis. But I won't go into that in this video. But anyway, so witnesses, you know, pride themselves on not participating in war. But what do they do on a smaller scale in the family? Don't they create war within the family? There's so much division you know, in any Jehovah's Witness congregation, you probably won't find a single family in there that isn't affected by the shunning. You know, where perhaps a family member has been disfellowshipped, and of course the witnesses will no longer talk to that one, or they're not supposed to associate with them at all. They're supposed to have no contact whatsoever. Ones that are not disfellowshipped but may just be expressing a few contrary thoughts, or, you know, making a few complaints about things they see wrong in the organisation. These ones find themselves being ostracised. People stop calling them, people stop inviting them out. Yeah, so there's an awful lot of division that is caused by this religion within the family and friendships. That's nothing to be proud about, absolutely not. Especially when these divisions come about because one person may question what the governing body has stated on a given subject, or they may resist following through with some counsel from the governing body that they find unscriptural and is affecting their conscience badly. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope that there might be at least 1 or 2 witnesses who read my sign today and really think, you know, I mean, any honest witness surely must recognise that they are obligated, you know, when they said yes to their baptism questions, that, you know, you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses in association with his spirit-directed organisation. They become bound or tied to the organisation, don't they? They haven't made a dedication to God alone. They have made a dedication to the organisation, at least that's the way the organisation sees it. Even though they say that that's not what it is in the Bible Teach book, but that's exactly what it is. You are bound to the organisation and the rules and the policies of the organisation. Even when those things don't make sense. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Welsh trial of 1954. It's a good one to Google. This was, I think it was a court trial where the brothers were fighting for the right for conscientious objection, you know, so as not to be drafted for the war. And they I think that's what it was anyway. And they had a brother, Covington, who I think was a watchtower lawyer, and I think it was also Franz, who at the time I think might have been the vice president. Anyway, that's beside the point. However, during the trial, and you can read the transcript online, if you just Google it, you'll find it. And basically, what it came down to was that the brothers basically said that if a witness did not believe or follow what the governing body said at any given time, then they were worthy of disfellowshipping and death. They were worthy of death. So even if what was stated turned out to be in error. And I think there were some examples, but you know, that's happened a lot over the last 100 years, hasn't it? Where the leaders, whether it be the president or the governing body, the faithful and discreet slave, have said something, and everyone's expected to believe it and accept it, and then later on, because it's evident that it's not true, that it's wrong, an error, they have new light and they propose something different. But you know, if a person what's really important in their eyes is obedience to the governing body, not whether what they say is true or not. So, like, if someone was disfellowshipped for refusing to believe a doctrine of the governing body, that they later changed, that person who was disfellowshipped for that would not automatically be reinstated. So it just shows that it's not truth that's important, it's obedience to the governing body. And I guess they feel they need this obedience in order to have unity, but it's not true unity, is it? It's an enforced conformity, if you like. That's not true unity. And I mean, it's the sort of thing that you see in North Korea. People have to conform, otherwise they're in big trouble, you know. And in this organisation, if you don't conform, you are ostracised, you are labelled as, you know, a complainer, a murmurer, spiritually weak, proud, all kinds of terrible labels, and at worst you're disfellowshipped for apostasy. So anyway, how are we going for time? I'm not sure. Probably half the witnesses might have left by now. Anyway, yeah, do look up that Welsh trial, Walsh, W-A-L-S-H, 1954, and you can just see how ridiculous the whole thing is. I know, I was shocked when I read that. Anyway, I'm seeing a few heads turn, and look, that's good. I'll say goodbye for now then. See you next time. Bye.